Welcome back to my YouTube channel where I'm documenting my experience with creating a podcast and a YouTube channel with 2 under 2, 6 months postpartum, a stay-at-home mom with very little time to myself and with no experience and no money. So let's get started. Okay, so today I was going to talk about what I do to better myself as an interviewer. So this was actually something that I didn't really think about before starting this podcast. Like literally a month ago, I am not as far along as I am today. So what I did before I got started was nothing. And I really wish that I had done something. So I've been wanting to do this podcast for like 2 years when I knew what the topic was going to be, but 6 years I've wanted to start a podcast. And so I really wish in the past 2 years I had been doing research on interview styles. I listened to other interviews and really dove into like what it looks like. I really wish that I had done this process where I'm talking to a camera and I really get comfortable with talking, because that is definitely the hardest part for me. But I didn't do any of that. So I'll tell you what I've learned in the past month and what that looked like for me. With this podcast, it's very much like women of all different walks of life, and it could just be a random person off the street. It could be my sister, it could be a family member, it could be, that's the same thing. It could be an author who's really good at doing these sort of interviews, all these different types of people. And I'm really glad that my first interview was with my midwife, which we do have to redo our interview because I definitely was not good. It was very poorly recorded. My questions were pretty much terrible, but I am glad that I started with her. First off, it's somebody that I'm comfortable with. It's somebody that I'm able to go back and record again and not feel awkward about that. It's also somebody who, if I ask a question, she goes for it and she answers it fully. And I didn't realize how hard it would be to interview people until I got a few interviews in, and I ended up meeting with somebody who was very like shy, and I don't know if insecure is the right word, but she just didn't know exactly what to say and what she was comfortable with saying and all of these different things. She'd never been interviewed before and she was kind of nervous that it was recorded. And it's just really hard because not everybody knows what to expect, especially because it is more conversational. And most of the women who are going to be on here have never been interviewed before in a podcast type of setting or in a conversational type of way. So I've really had to learn since creating this podcast and doing this whole thing of how to really draw out the questions, or how to really draw out the answers out of people, and how to make them more comfortable. And another really hard thing for myself is that I am a talker. I talk a lot. I talk fast. I also have ADHD, so I get off topic extremely easy. And in the beginning, the episodes were really hard because I would either talk a lot, I would accidentally talk over people, which I didn't mean to do. I would also go off on like tangents quite a bit. So they would say something and I would tell my own story. And then I've had to like really take a step back and be like, okay, this is not my episode. This is not about me. This is my whole purpose is to really showcase other women. With doing these episodes and learning, I've really like been able to chill out, talk slower, give people breaks. That's a really big thing that I've had to learn. And definitely make sure that I do not go off tangents. So if I realize that somebody is getting a little bit too far off topic, I'll ask them a question to redirect back to what we were talking about. Because another thing that I've really learned is if we go off on those tangents, and at first I was like, oh, it's fine, I'll just edit it out. It's okay. But then I realized that like I'll say something in those tangents, or she'll say something in those tangents that I will edit out, but then she'll mention it again down the way in the episode, or I'll say something that hints to what we had talked about that was clipped out. And so now the listener is like, wait, that came out of left field. That doesn't make sense. And so I've really had to like completely cut out any excess talking whenever possible. There are still times where I have to edit it out and I have to just be like, I talked a little bit too much, or maybe I said something. Uh, but I just do my best to like make sure that it flows and it makes sense down the way if somebody else was listening and didn't know what we said in that clipped out piece. Okay, so with that, it's actually really hard because people that I do have to really draw out their answer, it's like I do have to really like talk a lot more than I want to. So then I do clip it down later, which that part is a little bit tricky and I am still learning that part. Another thing that's really hard with people that don't really know how to answer things is I have noticed some people will kind of just go on for a while and not really know where the sentence is going. So then I'll either have to like chime in, and then I feel bad because it seems as if I'm like cutting them off to the outside listener who didn't see that clipped part. But it's like, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. So I got to figure that part out on how to go about that better in the future, but I'm still learning. So what I've done to kind of get better at these interview styles is I've been listening to other interviews where it is the kind of same conversational style interview that I want to do. And one of them that I heard was one of them that like significantly helped me out was I don't know who the podcaster was, but he was interviewing Jamie Lee Curtis, who I love. But she was talking about how whenever she goes to film a movie, she reads the script fully. She goes through it fully. She gets down her lines. She's got it memorized. She's ready to go. Well, then she just needs to go for it. She just needs to record herself. And that was something that I was really tripped up on before. I didn't want to say the wrong thing or to not remember what I wanted to say. So I script out everything. I thought that I was going to do solo episodes. I fully script out the whole entire thing. And then when I moved over to interview style, I full on had a full sheet of what I was going to ask and like how I was going to ask it. And it just didn't look natural at all. And that's not the type of person I am. Well, then when I listened to that Jamie Lee Curtis interview and she had said that she is not a script person, she just needs to go for it. And whatever happens, happens. And the director is just going to have to tell her if it worked or if it doesn't and how to go about changing it. So I was like, I really love that. So I changed my interview style to that. So now I just have bullet points of what I want to ask rather than the whole sentence be written out in the perfect way. Now I'll see like postpartum depression. So then I'll go over to the person and be like, so what was your postpartum experience like? And so we'll just kind of go from there. So it's instead of scripting out every word, I just bullet points. And so that really helped me. The next thing that really helped me was listening to creators that I can't even say that I really love them because I don't really listen to podcasts, which is a really terrible thing to say as somebody trying to create a podcast. But I listen to Call Her Daddy, Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan, people who are like the top of the top, who everybody knows, everybody loves. Well, not everybody loves, but everybody knows, and a lot of people do love. And I listened to their interview styles and I was kind of like, what do they sound like? How do their questions flow? What kind of questions do they ask? So I don't want to copy anybody, but it was just to kind of gain experience because I don't have experience with interviews. So that really helped me. Another thing so one of like the key takeaways from this video that I would say is one, definitely practice before you go, whether that's talking to yourself with the camera on, talking to your child, talking to somebody who's a friend. Like I had my mom help me with figuring out how to do the video and recording. So if I had done an interview with her, I feel like it would have gone so much farther and I would have learned so much more from doing those. And not everybody can, so it's get what you get and you don't throw a fit. I'll learn as I go. Um, that is the second point. The second key takeaway is that like we're all just doing our best. We have to start somewhere. And if you go back to Joe Rogan's or Call Her Daddy or Theo Vaughn or anybody that you listen to, if you go back to one of their first few episodes, even though they are higher up there with like, I mean, Joe Rogan has the production team and he has experience with talking on TV. His episodes now versus before are significantly different. And I feel like they've definitely gotten better. Again, I don't really like listen to podcasts or anything. So they are controversial people. I know that, but I just work here. But yeah, so I would say that that's just about it for how I go about, how I went about bettering myself as an interviewer. And this will be my second week in posting podcast episodes. This is only my first month in creating a podcast. So I definitely have a long way to go. I will definitely keep updating you as I go with different tips and tricks that I learned along the way. Goodbye.